All right, everyone. Let's all settle down. All right, can you guys hear me in the back? Can you hear me in the back? All right, thank you. All right, this is a very echoey space, so I hate to say it, but let's try to keep our personal conversations limited for a little bit. Welcome to everyone here. Thank you all so much for being here. I have a bunch of thank yous, and then we'll get to the program. I want to thank, we have some special guests. We have Norma Garcia from Meta here. We have Mark Leno, former state senator, here and running for mayor. We have the president of BART, Latifah Simon. We have the president of San Francisco Unified School District. Where are you, Shaman? There's Shaman. We have a lot of amazing people here. I've probably forgotten a bunch of people, but for all the honored guests that are here, thank you so much for coming. My name is Manny, and okay. I want to also thank Mikey and Mark. Mike, where are you? Mike and Mark might be in the back. There's Mike right there. The reason the space looks the way it is because of Mike. He's been working for 2 weeks clearing the space out. So thank you so much, Mike, for all the help. And then really appreciate it. Thank you. And then Fiona is in the back somewhere. Fiona is the guardian angel of this space. She's a longtime resident of the mission. Thank you for being here. Alicia. Oh my God.
Hi.
It's finally here.
It's happening.
Yeah. I'm going to introduce the whole idea of Manny's real quick, and then I'm going to give you not a very fair introduction because it's hard to do that. And then we're just going to talk for a few minutes, and then we're going to open up to questions. So this is really for you guys, not for us. So Manny's. So the idea behind Manny's is twofold. One is I kept seeing spaces opening up in San Francisco that felt snobby, douchey, and made me feel poorer than I actually was. And I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a place that felt like home, that people could talk about important things, but also have a good time? So the idea is combining civic programming with social gathering. The idea is kind of social in the front, civic in the back. So social in the front, civic in the back. That's where we are now. If you guys need any alcohol and you're over 21, there's a lot more in the back. Please imbibe. I got a lot of very cheap, very shitty wine for you guys. So I don't want it, so you guys need to drink it. So that's the idea behind Manny's. I think it's important in this day and age that we have places to go to learn how to be better citizens. So hopefully we can create more space for that. Alicia Garza. Okay, raised in a Jewish household. Founder of Black Lives Matter, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter. Special projects coordinator of the Domestic Workers Alliance. An amazing woman, an incredible citizen, a powerful figure in organizing and politics, and a hero to a lot of people. So first of all, I just want to say I'm so honored to be sitting next to a goddess like you right now.
The honor is mine. Okay, we'll just gush for a second. So every single person that I met tonight talked to me about how you are a magician, that you can bring together people from very diverse walks of life and make everybody feel like that's where they'd been all the time. That's where they should have been the whole time. So I just want you to know this community here is like loving on you, and I'm loving on you. And thank you for bringing all this together. This is incredible.
Thank you. Speaking of love, there's one person I forgot to thank, which is my lover, who's right over there, who has heard a lot of stories and has been on the receiving end of a lot of stories at the end of the night. So thank you, Rob, for holding me and being an amazing partner. Thank you. Okay, enough. All right, so we're going to get to it. God, okay, so first question for you is 90s. The 1990s. What do you miss most and what do you miss least?
Whoa, that was a big one. The 1990s, what I miss most is good music.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's true.
Yeah.
You don't hear like party for the 2000 to 2010s yet, no.
No. And what I miss the least is Hypercolor?
What is that? I don't know what that is.
You know what hypercolor is? Are
No.
you serious?
Does anyone know what that is?
Oh man.
What is that?
I'm feeling away. Okay, so it was like heat activated clothing that would change.
Did you have that? Did you have a hypercolor like jacket?
They're like t-shirts, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
They need to bring that back. They need to bring that back. Okay.
I think we should leave it there.
God. Hypercolor. I miss the 90s, actually. I do.
Me too.
Yeah. God, I have so many questions for you. You're the kind of person where I sit next to you and I just feel bad about myself. I feel like I'm not doing enough in my life, you know? We were gonna meet, we met up this past Monday, we did a walk and talk at Fruitvale Station around there, and it was 8 in the morning.
Yes, it was.
It was 8 in the morning. And all I was thinking was like, you have like 5 jobs. You have so much you're doing. And you have time to meet me at 8 in the morning. So where do you get the energy to do all the work that you're doing for domestic workers, for black people in the whole, not just the United States, but globally? You have a husband. I mean, there's so much going on in your life. How do you fit it all in? How are you doing all that shit?
Ooh, joyfully. So for me, what keeps me going is the possibility that we can win, that we can actually live in the world that we dream of in our hearts, like in our lifetime. And when I was learning how to organize on the streets of East and West Oakland, a lot of my mentors would tell me things like, you know, we're doing this work so that people who come after us will have a better life. And I'm like, well, that's not fun. That's a lot of work. Like, really? I don't get to see any of it? And actually, you know, if I were to go back to that moment in time, I would say I completely disagree. That everything that we do right now is also for the right now, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And for some of us, tomorrow is really not guaranteed. In fact, today is not guaranteed. So what keeps me going is Black trans women who are organizing, building power, staying connected to our folks in prisons who are not only struggling from being incarcerated, but also struggling being a trans person who's incarcerated. I do this work for my mama, who cleaned houses to raise me. I do this work for my brother, who is almost 30, and he's a Black kid who lives in Marin, and he could have been Trayvon Martin. I do this work for domestic workers who dream of a better life and do the work that keeps us all connected, do the work that makes sure that we have the things that we need, and I do this work so that domestic workers also get cared for in return. And I do this work because, quite honestly, like, the idea that people don't have the things that we need when we have so much resources, like, drives me nuts. It just doesn't make sense.
It's crazy.
So that's why I do it, and that's how I keep doing it. And also, I have a team of people that support me. So nobody ever says that, right? No, everyone's like, oh, yes, yes, I am fantastic. No, there's a lot of people that help me get to where I need to be every day, that help me say no, encourage me to say no, encourage me to sleep and eat and all that, including my partner. And yeah, that's how I keep going.
Awesome. Just so you guys know, with regards to format, this is really going to be more, a lot of this time is going to be for you guys to ask questions. So I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're just going to go right into you guys. And part of that just comes from me going to so many events where there's an amazing, incredible person, and I keep thinking, I don't want to just listen to this random person talk to her. I want to ask her a question. So this is an opportunity for you guys. Give me a day in the life of Alicia Garza. What does your day look like?
Which day do you want?
Today. What did today look like?
Oh, today?
Or give me a sample day. Yeah, what do you?
Okay. Today I got up at 4 a.m.
You look so good.
Thanks.
How do you do
I
it?
took a nap. I took a nap.
What time was your nap?
My nap was at 3 o'clock.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So this morning I
amazing.
got up at 4 and did a segment on Democracy Now! About with Tarana Burke, who's the creator of Me Too. which was pretty fresh.
Awesome.
And we talked about...
Slightly more impressive than Manny Yekutiel.
It can be equal, you know what I mean? And we did a segment on how sexual violence and sexual harassment impacts low-wage workers and women of color. And then it was still dark out when we were done, which I was really upset about. I was so tired. Just need a little sunshine. I didn't get that for another hour or so, but then I went to my office and paid some bills and got ready for a retreat that myself and my new coworker in our new project called the Black Futures Lab set for ourselves to get some work done and to plan for 2018. We have a big project we're launching called the Black Census Project, where we are talking to 200,000 Black people from diverse communities across the country and asking us how we understand problems happening in our communities and how we want to see those problems shift. So it's a massive project. And today I was like, oh God, is it gonna happen? It's totally happening. And when I started to melt down, my friend and coworker was like, what do you mean? This is totally happening. It's awesome. Let's move on.
What made you think it wasn't gonna happen?
Oh, you have all those anxieties, right?
I'm Jewish. I know all about it. It's like you look up Jew in the encyclopedia and you see it's like neurotic person. That's what you get. Angry neurotic person.
I'm not touching that. However, what I will say is I get anxious about whether or not we can. I have such high expectations and big ambitions, right? And so we've been really quiet about this project because we just want to come out swinging and be like, yeah, we out here, right? So all of a sudden I was like, what if we're not out here? But we're definitely out here. And then I came home and I took a nap because I was so tired. I feel like I probably fell asleep during our conversation for just like a couple seconds.
Like right now?
No, like earlier in my retreat.
Okay. All right.
I was like, wait,
you
what
seem
did
very
you
awake.
I took a nap and then I got dressed and called my friend Latifah Simon, who I love so much. Just checked in with her because I feel like she's my fairy godmother. I'm like, tell me it's gonna be fine. She was like, girl, get off my phone. It's fine. So that's what I did today. And what I do in life in general, I work with the National Domestic Workers Alliance, bring Black domestic workers together to build power and to develop new strategies to change our economy and strengthen our democracy. I monitor what's going on with BLM, but I'm like, yo, that's a toddler and it's walking. So that's really cool. In case you guys don't know, BLM's not just a hashtag. We have a global network with 40 chapters around the world in 3 countries. So lots of really powerful work happening there.
Amazing. All right, you guys. All right, we're going to start with questions. I'm going to hand you the mic, and you're going to ask your question, and then I'm going to repeat it. Who would like to ask the first question? Courtney? No. Right there. Come in.
Oh, Oprah. This is good.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Alicia and Manny, for hosting this event. Sorry I'm a little under the weather, but so I've been very vocal about politics. I grew up in a Republican family, and then there was a whole process moving from that, and I feel like I've always been the progressive in my family, holding the ground, and I think I've moved on from the point of transforming minds there and just being happy with what I want to do, and respecting their differences. So I think I want to ask a question. I think for a lot of people who are here is like, so what do I do beyond just like yelling into the void and maybe sprinkling money to different campaigns here and there? Is it worth my time going into a city council meeting? Like, where do I begin to actually make a bigger difference than what I can do beyond my day job?
Other people have that question too?
How many people want to know what they can do? Raise their hand. Okay, a lot of people.
Okay. So here's a secret. I'm not going to tell you the path to change. But I'm going to say there's a bunch of things that you can do right now that are making an impact, including what you're doing. So as somebody who used to run a small community-based organization here in San Francisco that was bringing Black and Latino families together to make sure that San Francisco lived up to its promise of being a beacon, right, for progressive values, it actually does matter where you give your dollars. And I know that that can feel really transactional, but it can literally mean the difference between whether or not folks are doing organizing work, whether or not there's programming happening, whether or not you're able to provide childcare at your meetings so that people can fight for their future. So it is actually a big deal, and I don't want to poo-poo it, even though I know sometimes when we give our money, we don't know what the path of that money is, but for a lot of places, your dollar is being stretched. I can definitely tell you. Your dollars were being stretched at Power when I was there, especially as we were trying to get foundation funding. That doesn't cover everything, and lots of organizations are not funded as well as they could be. So giving resources is a big deal. I also think it's really important to get involved in something that moves you, the thing that wakes you up in the middle of the night, the thing that makes you do the little happy dance when you think about it, or the thing that makes your heart pound because it makes you so mad. I feel like right now people avoid joining groups. There's really power in numbers. And there's something about breaking the isolation of what I do during the day, which is I'm on conference calls and then I'm watching CNN and then I'm throwing stuff at the TV and I'm screaming why is this happening?
This is before the nap.
Yes, this is pre-nap. There's something really powerful about being in political community with people who share your concerns and who you're working with to build a vision of what's possible and to get there. So I know folks are I don't join things, but I say join something. So there's that. And then also, I do think it's important to go to council meetings and things like that. They're boring. They're boring, but there's a lot of decisions that are being made that impact your life. So if you're mad about the outcome, then get involved in the process so that you can shape it. And I know people don't always think that's super cool, especially progressives, right? We're we have our values, and we want the people we elect to do things that exemplify our values. But if they don't hear from you, not just when they're doing the wrong thing, although they definitely need to hear from you when they're doing the wrong thing, but also when they're doing the right thing, then you're letting someone make decisions on your behalf without you. Full stop. So those kinds of things are cool to do. Go to meetings. You don't have to go to every meeting, but go to meetings, at least know what's going on, know what people are talking about.
Awesome. Next question.
While we're waiting, can I just say one more thing about what you can do? So your story is super fascinating to me because I can imagine what that's been like to kind of move in a different direction from the ethics and values of your own family and to be okay with that. Lots of people that I meet that are going through the same thing often land at the conclusion of, okay, I'm just going to do me and I'm going to let my family do them. And I actually want to challenge us a little bit, especially if our families are politically active, right, and they're voting their values. We do need to have, not arguments, but conversations. We need to understand, what's that thing that's moving underneath that's making you so fearful of gay people, of trans people, of Black people, of women, whatever it is, right? We have to get to the meat of that. Because if we don't, we can throw a zillion statistics at people, they don't care. They don't care. It's all about what's moving in you that then translates into what you do when you get to make a choice. So I would encourage all of us who have families like that. I know it's not possible for everyone, right? Some of us are estranged from our families because their values are definitely not ours. But I do want to encourage us to kind of dig in a little bit because where we are as a country right now is so terrifying. And if we're not talking about what's underneath, we're not going to make it. So please keep doing what you're doing.
We have a question in the second row.
Hey, second row, where you at? Hey.
Right here. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. My name's Kari. So blessed to be here. So I feel awkward asking a question
It's okay.
because I just feel like I always just feel like asking these kinds of questions to people who are experiencing, like, I'm asking you to give me advice, and I just feel bad about that.
I
But
feel bad.
but
Just
thank
don't
you
be
for
mad if
giving
I
it
can't
to
give
me.
it to you.
Word. I'm not gonna be mad.
Okay, then we have a deal.
So I'm a Black person that moved to the Bay. I moved a lot. I don't feel like I have a place where I could be going back to a community that would make sense to go back and make an impact in, just because I don't have a home base.
Fair.
But I work in the field of gentrification and I work against gentrification and homelessness in my work. And I try to support people that are experiencing homelessness and housing crisis. But I also feel this incredible hypocrisy of me moving into the Bay as a lower middle income person who inherently had to be in a place where I feel like I'm displacing people. Sorry for this personal introduction.
Okay.
I feel like the context is important, but
Do not be sorry.
I do feel like we should all apologize more instead of apologizing less sometimes, but I hear you. It's just
Well,
not
now.
me. Honestly, not me, right?
Not
Okay.
you.
Word. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks,
now.
Manny.
Yeah,
So-
tell your story, goddammit. You're amazing.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'm wondering, like, I want to do the most impactful work that I can, and I want to work within communities of other POC that are sort of, I want to continue working with people that I feel like have this, like, multiple structures of oppression that are affecting them, that are also not affecting me in a lot of those cases, right? Like, I'm not experiencing homelessness, and I haven't been displaced here, and I want to make sure that I'm, like, only existing in spaces where I'm useful, and I just don't, I feel like as a Black person, a lot of times I'm like, I got the pass, like, we good, I can't, like, take up too much space here, but I don't actually think that's true, and so I know that a lot of people that have, like, most of my friends are Black people who grew up in the Bay, and
Really?
yeah. Yeah, where are they, right? Really? Y'all
Really?
I
We're
know.
like unicorns. This is
Word.
amazing. Who else? Other Black people grew up in the Bay that are here still?
I know.
You still live in San Francisco, though?
They're not in San Francisco.
Where are you? Okay. No. Sorry, I was talking to you.
I'm excited about
Yeah.
it. But, yeah, so, right, exactly. And they are definitely good at checking me, and I'm so appreciative of that. But do you have any advice for Black people who are inherently going to be gentrifying, like, if gentrification is both a class-based and a race-based, or like a like changing a neighborhood-based process? Like, how could we? I don't know what I'm even asking. Like, how do I make sure I'm okay? Like, how do I continuously check myself? I guess.
She just wants some advice right now. She needs
Yeah.
some. She just wants some. She just wants some advice.
That's why I said.
Here's some water.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. No, I got it. That was a big question.
It was. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Don't be sorry. So, I'm going to answer your question a little bit roundabout because it is important to be conscious of when you're not from a place, how do you support the place as opposed to try to change it to be what you want it to be when there are lots of people who have been living and struggling in that place too. But I don't see that as so polar, right? Like I actually don't think it's that difficult to be in a place and support. Not that difficult. Let me say this differently. I don't think it has to feel like an either or. Okay. And the reason that I'm saying that is because gentrification is a systemic process. Yeah. That it is an economic process and it is also a cultural process. The cultural process supports the economic transformation. And so being in a place and supporting what it means to be there without trying to change it to be your thing is really important. Because what gentrification does is it markets new communities, right? It creates new spaces that are designed for you to want to be there. That's just real. So I did a lot of development stuff here in San Francisco. I'm not going to go into all of it because then maybe some of you won't be my friends anymore. But what I learned, right, in that process was that whole communities get marketed to people like, not really actually like you, but whole communities get marketed. And the whole plan for how it gets changed is based on what developers think is going to make the most money, right? And it's complicated in a municipal context because gentrification is a revenue generator for municipalities, right? It's a long conversation about how that works, but the whole point of what I'm trying to say to you is that, yes, your individual actions matter, and so it is important to be conscious of, like, am I building with my neighbors? Do I know my neighbors?
Yeah, love my neighbors.
Do I know my neighbors, right? Do I like my neighbors, or do I like what my neighbors represent? That's a real thing here in the Mission, right? Am I open to creative ways of solving problems that don't push people out or further criminalize them, right? And then also, how involved am I in the decision making that's happening around what's to be in my community? Because some of those decisions get made in your name, right? With that being said, I'm not aware of a community that has been gentrified by Black people. I'm not.
That's real.
And I'm not saying that as it's not a thing that's like Black people are exceptional. I mean, we are exceptional, but it's not that. It is about how race and class interact. And so in a city where the Black population has dropped faster than any other major US city outside of post-Katrina New Orleans, Black folks are not gentrifying San Francisco. Now, does that mean that Black folks who are making some money aren't moving into communities that are trying to become trendy? Yeah. And in that way, we are part of that process. But that is not happening in mass. And I think we just have to name that, right? So the last thing I'll say here is right-sized responsibility is important. And if you really want to fight gentrification, keep doing the work that you're doing and support community-based, community-driven organizations that are trying to make sure that as neighborhoods change from outside pressures, that, that the benefits of those changes also get to go to people who lived and struggled in these communities when nobody wanted to live here. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Sorry.
Thank you for that, Alicia. I feel like I just want to be like, do we have a question from over here? Alex? Also, I went to the Mission Fabric Outlet and I got this.
Fabric is so amazing.
It's serving no purpose other than I just thought it was awesome.
Other than giving me life, yes. Hi, Alex. Oh,
Successes, keys, failures of BLM so far. Thank you, Alex.
that's a great question. In so many ways, I feel like our future is still being written. So I'm going to do a hasty analysis. Success. We have created what I think is a culture. Okay, is this better? Yeah. So we've created what I think is a cultural revolution, not just here in the US, but around the world, where Black people are being talked about and engaged with in a completely different way. Some folks might try to find other periods in history that it's comparable to. I think Black power, Black is beautiful, right? Like, that was a whole kind of change in how people understood Blackness, and both the kind of rich cultural history of the Black diaspora and also the deep and significant challenges that Black communities face. And to be able to do so without doing what we've been doing for the last 30 years, which is blaming ourselves for not being able to achieve systems change, right? So Black folks are good at being like, okay, but we had a movement and then people dropped the ball, right? And it's like, actually, it's not that simple. A whole bunch of things happened. Globalization happened, right? Like all kinds. So big success, I think. Big challenge that's related to that, Black is now a brand. So I'll give an example. And I don't know, maybe somebody here works at Walmart. But we did get an invitation to be featured by Walmart for Black History Month. And I was like, what? What? Like, why would we do that? Why would you even ask? Right? It was like, I was really concerned. And then I realized, oh, the reason that you ask is because you want to be tied to something that has cultural currency, right? It doesn't matter if Black lives don't actually matter in your company or your business model. You just want to make sure that our shining faces are there for the shortest month of the year, right? And as a labor organizer, I was actually deeply offended. I fought Walmart in Oakland when it came, and then promised people a bunch of jobs, and then stayed for a couple years, and then closed down. That building is still empty, right? So that's an example of that challenge. Other major success of BLM is it got people out in the streets and involved. I have never seen, in my lifetime, I haven't seen so many non-Black people talking about Black lives. And being like, I went to a march, I went to an action, I went to a rally, I'm talking about it in my home, talking about it in my family, I'm talking about it in my job. That is unheard of in my lifetime. Also, I think that a challenge that we're facing right now, not just as BLM, the organization, but the movement, is how do you continue to create new pathways for people to be involved if protest is not their thing, right? And how do we reclaim protest as a part of a larger strategy rather than protest as merely an expression of what we're upset about? So what is great about protest and direct action is that it's escalating pressure, right? So you do all the nice things first, right? You try to sit down, you try to come to an agreement, all that stuff, right? When that doesn't work, which it hasn't, then you turn the heat up a little bit. That's what protests are for. But they can't exist in isolation of a broader strategy that is continuing to try and engage and shape what's going on. And I would say it's uneven, right, how people relate to that. And that is a diffusion of power. Yeah. Other big success is that we changed the narrative during the 2016 election. Every candidate had to talk about Black Lives Matter, even though they really tried not to. Really tried. So January last year, we petitioned the DNC to do a Black Lives Matter debate. Y'all don't know that, do you? Yeah, everyone's like, you guys are abstentionists. No, not totally. So we petitioned them to do a Black Lives Matter debate, and they refused. That's why you don't know about it.
What was the stated reason of them refusing? What did they tell you?
That the candidates would talk about issues that impacted everyone. I'll post the letter again on Facebook because we posted the response that we got. That was a big mistake, right? So people want to know, well, how come Black people don't get involved? Well, that's not true. We do get involved, and in fact, we keep saving democracy, right? But every so often, we'd love to see some stuff that's like, hey, we're actually concerned about what you're going through. That'd be nice. And it's not just issues about how to get to the middle class. Black folks we have some complex things that we care about, and those are never being addressed. Rarely, I should say. Big challenge that was attached to that. I think people got deeply cynical in this campaign season. I think not engaging around having a debate, right, that was showcasing issues that Black Lives Matter cares about, in addition to violence from the police, was a big mistake. I think for folks who really worked hard to shift up what people consider to be the establishment, folks got really cynical and disappointed. And then when Trump got elected, when he took power, because let's be honest.
What did you call him on that podcast interview? Like the Satan reincarnate or something?
I don't remember.
You called him like...
Did I call him the devil
like
incarnate?
Beelzebub or something. No.
I'm not sure. I don't think I used that word.
Something like really heinous.
All I know is I called him 45 because I don't even really like saying his name. It just stresses me out. Maybe I called him the Orange Menace.
It's like Voldemort.
Yeah.
Hugh must not be named.
Hugh not must be named. But that cynicism keeps people from taking action. And I do think that it also creates a dynamic where people don't believe that government will ever work for them. And so then when I try to imagine a world where there's not some coordination of how we all get our needs met, and it doesn't have to be like this formation and way that it's happening, but there does have to be some kind of coordination. I think that it stifles our imagination about what's possible when things feel really hopeless. And also this year, the thing that was a big challenge was one of the ways that 45 got himself elected was by demonizing Black Lives Matter. So we now are trying to shake a widely held perception, like everywhere outside of San Francisco, and also some pockets of San Francisco, that believe that we want to kill cops. Even though we've never, ever said that, and that's not what we believe, right? That tried to falsely pin the murders of police officers on Black Lives Matter, as opposed to having a real conversation about who did do that, which were military veterans. That's what happens when you cut services, right? That's what happens when you cut infrastructure and supports, okay? People act their aggression out, and it's just a real thing. So, and this, I mean, I can just tell you honestly, we've been sued, Patrice Opel and myself, along with some other folks, have been sued 3 times in different state courts. One was a lawsuit that was about us starting a race war. And the other 2, oh no, you're laughing, but remember, this is now Trump's America. And the other 2 were from Louisiana, which I think are still active actually, where they are trying to hold us accountable for police officers who were injured in Baton Rouge. Now, mind you, neither Patrice Opel or myself were anywhere near Baton Rouge that day, and we don't even have chapters in Baton Rouge. We don't have any organizational infrastructure there. So, challenges, successes, and there's lots more to be written.
All right, let's get a question from the back. Yeah, right there. I'm coming to you. Right here.
Can you share your frustrations with white allies in the San Francisco Bay Area?
He's trying to open up a whole...
I'm not finished yet. And also it makes you optimistic. And I'll preface this saying that I'm not basing white allies strictly on the color of your skin, but as a mindset.
All right.
Wow. It's a huge question, and I have a lot to say. Well, let me start by saying this. Having been groomed here, I've had the great honor and pleasure of working with and being shaped by some of the most badass anti-racist, white organizers and activists in the country, quite frankly. And so I feel grateful for that. And working here and organizing here, I often felt like, you know those college photos where you get like, you have to have one of everybody? But actually what's going on at the school is like it's majority white, you know? Like I felt like that a lot here. I think our communities feel that way too. Being Black in San Francisco is not easy. It's not easy at all. And we don't even talk about what's happening in the Black areas of San Francisco, right? Yeah, it's only 3%. My grandfather played in clubs in the Fillmore, and now when I walk through the Fillmore, when I come back to San Francisco, because it's hard for me to come back here.
Gino? Yeah, do you want to switch with me? It's good from where I'm sitting. You want to switch? You're more important than I am. It's light bulbs. We try to create a little mood over here, you see, with all these.
I just don't want to. One of those things will be like. So when I walk through the Fillmore now, I walk on these plaques that are where Black people dreamed and lived and created culture and shaped community, and they're not there anymore. Working in Bayview Hunters Point for 10 years, I got really frustrated. I think we did a really good job of putting Bayview on the map. It's not on tourist maps still, but we're working on that. Well, now that it's being developed, it's now like Bayview Heights or something like that. It's not to say that that shouldn't happen, right? But it is to say that Black people were left out of progressive plans in San Francisco for a long time. And we fought really hard for Black communities to be on the progressive agenda in San Francisco. And there's still a lot of work left to be done, but lots was opened. I think that here, in a place that is so wildly progressive as compared to the rest of the country, and now that I've gotten to like actually be in places almost everywhere in the United States, I'm like, whoa, San Francisco, man. It's not even a bubble, it's just like a mecca. That's why people come here. I think we take that for granted sometimes. Like the potential of what this place could be, because this is a mecca where people go to be free. Like what if part of our activism, part of our anti-racism was creating a place in this country, right, where we were actually experimenting with how we dismantle structural racism and take care of everyone. What if San Francisco could be that place? And I'm not giving up on it, but we're not there. So let me say one last thing on allies. I don't use that word. It doesn't mean anything to me. It really doesn't, because I could be like an ally to, you know, small children who make clothes that I buy at stores, but I'm still buying those clothes. You see where I'm going with that? So what I'm more interested in is like, how do we conspire together to transform the things that we don't like and build the things that we want? And in order for that to happen in a really good way, we have to struggle with whiteness as a culture, as a politic, as a way of legislating, right? And like really take that on. And so it's not always about how can I help communities of color? It's like, how do I save, how do I transform the dynamic that is shaping so much misery, right? And how do I recruit as many people to that cause as possible? And I think we're still working on getting there.
We have a question in the back. Hi. Can you hear me? Okay, apparently you can. My name is Chantel Hurd. I am the Black Student Union Chair at San Francisco State University, and I am the Finance Chair of the African Black Coalition. So my question is based around self-care. So as an organizer who is Black, Mexican, queer, a full-time student who works 2 jobs, and an organizer, thank you. Also we don't consider ourselves leaders, we consider ourselves servants of the community. How do you engage in self-care?
Not alone, that's for sure. So I know that there is a renewed interest in how do we take care of ourselves as we face some really hard stuff, right? Whether it's what's happening at the university, or what's happening in our communities, or the relationship between the lack of our communities in the university. It's heartbreaking work. And so often where we go to is, well, how do we take care of ourselves in that? And then what people will say to you is, well, you should get a massage, you should do some yoga. You did. And all that stuff is good, right? But I think that caring for yourself doesn't have to be about things that you buy, to make yourself feel better, because that's a whole culture in itself. I think, and this is not my idea, right? This is what Audre Lorde talked about, right? When she said that caring for ourselves was an act of political warfare. Melissa Harris just recently wrote a whole series with her students at Wake Forest University about squad care, right? Because what care is not happening ever in isolation. To care for ourselves, we need to be cared for, right? I work with women that care for other people every day. And if I told them, you should just get a massage, they're like, that does nothing for the time that I lose with my own family because I'm taking care of somebody else's family, right? So for me, self-care is actually also about squad care. It is about how we take care of each other as we work 2 jobs, are Black and queer and in the university and running student organizations and serving the people. It's like part of what it means to serve the people is to create spaces for us to do transformative work that are not predatory, that aren't replicating the same kinds of things we're trying to dismantle. And so for me, self-care is having courageous conversations, right? Instead of doing the backbiting that a lot of us do. That person driving me nuts, and this person, and whatever, right? Like that eats at you. But it's also about practicing being transparent and authentic and honest in a world that actually tries to squash that. For me, self-care is about deep belly laughs with the people that I love. And we're not talking about politics. We're not sometimes, and I could talk about I could politicize the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but sometimes I just want to watch it, right? And I want to crack up, right? And self-care for me is about that. It's about really nourishing the bonds with the people that I do this work with and the people that I have yet to do this work with, right? Yeah, exactly, like our coffee the other morning. And it's also about recognizing that what will kill us is isolating ourselves in a world that is trying to take us out. It's easy to take us out if we're alone. It's harder to take us out if the fibers that connect us are strong. So that's how I practice self-care. And then I also have practices that I do, or I try to do regularly to make sure that I'm in my body. Because a lot of the time I'm living up here in my head. I have my to-do lists, right? I have my responsibilities, I have my commitments. Yeah, I'm trying to get through my stuff and get through my day. So I have to do things that like bring me back to me so that I notice like, I actually really want to cry today. And I have to give myself space to do that. I'm working on that. I have to give myself space to be in grief. Like part of what is hard for me about the notion of self-care in the way that it gets talked about is it's as if there's a panacea for us to not feel what we're feeling. But what we feel is what makes us human. And it's what makes us want to connect with other people. So we have to nurture that. So practices, I do yoga, because I need to like look at myself. Like every day, I need to look at myself. Like, what's going on in my back? Oh, okay. Why is that tight? Oh, okay. Right? Actually, I'm all stressed out, so every limb is tight. When you're walking around like that all the time, you're just numb. So I do things to actually feel the discomfort that I have, the grief, the rage, the pain. And when I'm in that practice regularly is when I find joy. I'm not looking for joy, right? It's like it's an outgrowth of what it means to invest in my well-being, so that I can invest in the well-being of other people. That's all I have to say about that for now.
Thank you. And then hopefully we'll stay for some time afterwards, Alicia. Thank you. I'm really curious.
Where are you?
Wait, I'm over here.
Oh, hi.
I'm really curious what you think about Me Too, because of course it's, Black women started Me Too a very, very long time ago. We talk about it now because a handful of famous white women have put it in the news. So what do you think about that? And also, do you feel like we've turned a corner? Are you optimistic?
Thanks, Cindy.
Sure, I'm optimistic. I'll start there. It's been really powerful to watch. So yes, shout out to Tarana Burke, who didn't just start a hashtag. Like, she has been supporting survivors of assault and violence for a really long time. Somebody that I work with, who I care for very much, called me when Me Too was starting to trend, and she was so upset. She said, my friend who saved my life is getting erased out of this conversation. Her work is getting erased. And I was like, oh no, that's not gonna happen, right? That's not gonna happen. So, and it's not happening. She was just named one of the Time People of the Year, right? Silence Breakers, but was named specifically, which is a big deal. So what I think about Me Too is that it is really important and powerful. I also feel really strongly that Me Too gets misconstrued because, yes, it is about sharing stories. It's also very much about exposing power and how it operates. And so what we're seeing right now is like a lot of powerful people who are being displaced from their power. But what has not yet happened, right, is a shift by which people don't use their power to abuse other people. That's where we want to go, and we have to keep our eyes on that. Right now, it's kind of devolving into like a partisan thing, like, you know, who has the moral high ground? Is it liberals or conservatives? Is it Republicans or Democrats? I'm like, it's not really about that, right? It's about transforming the way that power operates so that women in particular are not being taken advantage of because we lack the same societal power, economic power, right? Political power. That's the stuff that I see moving right now. And I also heard this conversation the other day that just like incensed me, which was like, okay, so what are we gonna do? We're just gonna like take everybody out and then what? I was like,
Yeah.
That's
exactly what's gonna happen.
And then we're gonna replace them.
It's about time, right?
Powerful women, right? So that we correct an imbalance. It's not about, it's not like women are inherently holy, although I kind of believe that, but that's not the political strategy, right? The political strategy is that women are underrepresented in the decisions that impact our lives. And so yes, actually, it is important to change the composition of decision-making bodies where women are underrepresented. The way that we do that, right, is getting more women elected. So, and not just women, but women with a progressive vision of what's possible and a plan and a strategy on how to get there and a community that's rolling with us. Yeah. It starts in grade school. Yeah, so that's the other thing I was going to say. Me Too is also so powerful because it is very much about cultural shifts. We could start teaching young people at the age of like 5 even about consent and dignity and respect, right? We could do that. And then when people got to be adults, right, would act differently. We could, right, stop acting like the things that are happening in front of us every day, whether it be on the television or in our schools. I just talked to Ella. Where are you?
Is Ella still here? Ella?
Okay, well, I just met Ella, who's fantastic. And Ella was telling me about a TED Talk that she's doing in her school in relationship to a book that was written like just for boys that was like about how to build a go-kart and how to do all these things. And she's like, actually, let's stop doing stuff like that, right? Let's stop doing stuff like that. So she's marking up the book and sending it back to the publisher so that they know how to get it right. Those are the kinds of cultural shifts that we need. And those kinds of cultural shifts will actually create better legislative solutions. The big question that I'm grappling with right now is how do we hold perpetrators accountable, many of whom are also often survivors, without feeding an already bloated criminal system? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm working on it. I'm told that the Coalition of Immokalee Workers has a really interesting model that is worker-led, survivor-led. They have a code of ethics and conduct that is like deeply embraced by the organization so that the fields as people's workplaces are safer for women, right? Super important. So I think there's kernels in there that I'm interested in. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for that question. We have one more question over here, and then Alicia, if you'll give the crowd some time afterwards, hopefully to just meet you if you'd like, whatever time you have. Before we do that, though, are the new school teachers still here? Are they all still here? Yeah. We have the head of school and 10 teachers from the new school in San Francisco, which is a free tuition public school in the city, and I'm really honored that you guys are here. So thanks. We have 10 teachers and the head of school from the school here. So very, very honored that you'll be here. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's a lot of teachers. My best friend is a teacher, and so I've learned a lot about how hard that job is. The last question over here Please stick around afterwards for some time with Alicia, and come back there.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hey, oh, matching jackets. Hey.
Yeah. Divas.
Yes.
Hi, girl. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. It's good to see you.
Good. You too. Good. And hi, Latifah. I heard you were in the house.
She's not in the house tonight, but she's here with us in spirit.
I actually wanted to sort of loop back to one of the early questions that someone asked, because I was sitting here talking in this 4-pack back here, and we were noticing that we're some of the elders in the room, if you will. That we have a lot of younger, dynamic, amazing, powerful people here, future change makers, present change makers. And I thought if you could share 3 organizations to donate to, 2 things that we should be really watching out for in this Trump administration, and 1 thing that makes your heart sing.
You know what, Tanya? You better come through. Okay, so 3 organizations for people to donate to. 2
things we should watch out for in the Trump administration.
And then, okay. 1 thing that makes my heart sing, Black women. For sure, all the time. 2 things we should watch out for with the Trump administration. 1 big thing, which might even just be the 2 things, is it's not just like bad policy, but it's also like he's changing how governance happens. So that it's not just about like waiting until he's not there anymore. In fact, that's not a good strategy because he's changing the rules of democracy. So that's the hugest threat, I think. And the other one, of course, is just our relationship to the global community. There's a lot of really terrible, I mean, I can't even, yeah. Colombia, Honduras, Libya. There's so many things happening, right? And I feel pretty strongly that he's not doing anything good for us, like no favors. 3rd thing, because I'm just going to break the rule a little bit. COINTELPRO 2.0. Black identity extremists as a new category that the FBI is testing that literally says these are people with deep pride in their identity and who target law enforcement. If we let that stand, we've learned nothing. We've learned nothing. Like, so you talked about elders, and like my elders have passed that down to me. Right? Like the Panthers gathered in Oakland this last year, and super profound. These aren't like celebrities. These are our neighbors, people we have lunch with and run into at the doctor's office, and folk who will tell you, I didn't get to have a relationship with my family because of the way in which the government targeted us. I lost my best friends. I don't talk to people anymore. Like that kind of and also all my best friends are in jail and have been for decades. Like Herman Bell, right? Who is getting beaten in prison right now by white supremacist guards. He's an old man. He's in his late 70s. So, I'm going to go there. If we allow that to stand, we have not learned anything. 3 organizations that you can give to right now. The Transgender, Gender Variant, Intersex Justice Project, led by the fearless Janetta Johnson and a whole crew of visionaries that lead with heart. And not only do they make sure that our family in prison and jails are not forgotten and taken care of, but they're fundamentally transforming how we do this work. You should totally give to the Black Futures Lab. I'd be silly if I didn't say
Get a Venmo
that.
for them?
I couldn't do it well.
Like,
I know,
yeah.
but you did get a link in your email. What we are doing is transforming Black communities into constituencies that can wield power at the municipal and the state level, and eventually the federal level, but we got a lot of work to do up there. And the way that we're trying to solve problems for our communities is using creativity and innovation and some guts. So if you want to help us talk to 200,000 Black people so folks can stop talking about us and we can talk back about what it is that we actually dream about and want and see, you can give to us. And the third organization, there's so many great ones. I'm gonna do a Frisco one. And this is a different kind of organization, but a real institution, which is the Bayview newspaper. William and Mary Radcliffe have been running that newspaper solo, mortgaging their house, like every last dime goes into that paper. That paper is a vehicle for people who are incarcerated to be able to engage with the outside world, to be able to not be forgotten. And it has also been the vehicle for community organizations that don't get covered in the Chronicle, that don't get on CNN, you know, to talk about what we want, what we need. So there's a lot of organizations in San Francisco that deserve your money. That organization in particular, we have to take care of it. It's an institution. So you can find them online. And I'll leave it there.
So it was the Bayview newspaper.
Bayview newspaper, transgender, gender variant, intersex justice project.
And the Black Futures Lab.
And the lab.
Wow, can everyone... I just want to say something. You can take a seat now. You can take a seat. I just want to say you're powerful. You're a hero to a lot of people. There are 300 people in this room right now, and there are 3 million people more around the world that look to you. And you wear that responsibility with such lightness, such poise. You're kind. You're open. You're an amazing citizen of the Bay Area. You make us proud to be, you make me proud to be, you know, living in the Bay Area, to know that you're local, that you're from here. It's been such an honor to share this light bulb filled carpet with you tonight. It's been an honor to try to navigate these microphones with you tonight. Alicia, thank you so much for coming to San Francisco tonight and braving the bridge and coming here. I want to let you guys know that I want to do this every night. I don't know if you do, but I do. So it's Manny's is on Facebook. Please like it if you'd like. I hate to even say that, but that way I don't have to individually ask you guys to come to future events. I tried to do some spray painting recently. So the sign says, "What will you do about it?" I hope that you can think about that question. For just quickly, a show of hands, how many of you work in the fields of politics, activism, social justice? Raise your hand. Okay, great. That's like, 30 to 40% of the room. That means that there's 50 to 60% of you that can change your jobs. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how many years I have left. and I want to make sure that I'm spending my time as productively as I can. And there's some real shit that we need to fix in this world. And I go back to one of the things you said in the beginning, which is I don't want to wait for the next generation to fix these problems. You know, like they're serious, they're real, they hurt. So I want to say thank you all for being in our living room tonight and being a part of this family conversation. It's a real honor. We are, I can say the next Manny's topic conversation is going to be with the 28-year-old mayor of Stockton, Mike Tuck. It's a really special one, so he'll be coming probably sometime in January. We're going to be having the same idea, lots of really shitty wine, lots of light bulbs. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being part of this family. And one last thank you to Alicia Garza.